Om. 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 Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trilokyam Sacharacharam Atpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Yata sarvani bhutani pratibhanti stitani cha yatraivo pashamam yanti tasmai satyatmane namaha. So where are we in our text?
We're in chapter 7, 31-32.
Chapter 7, verse 31, 32. Who do we have online tonight?
Just me.
I just me.
Okay, should I start?
Please.
Nahi chanchalata hinam mana kvachana drishyate chanchalatvam mano dharmo vahne dharmo yatoshnata. Devoid of movement, the mind is not perceived anywhere indeed. Movement is the nature of the mind as heat is the characteristic of fire.
Yes. So mind is the awareness of the flow of thought. It is the flow of thought that comprises the mind. Now listen carefully. You do not have awareness. You are awareness. You have the flow of thoughts. You are not the flow of thoughts. Now, this flow of thought is miraculous. And without a doubt, the best image of it is the Alata Shanti in Mandukya Upanishad, 4th chapter. The quenching of the firebrand. So the movement of thought, the movement of the mind, is like a firebrand or a sparkler moving and making a circle or a figure eight. Just as the circle or the figure eight appears to exist, oh, this is nothing compared to flying. When thoughting happens, the whole world for me appeared. Of course, the simplest proof of it is, where is it in deep sleep? It's gone. Where is it in samadhi? Gone. So my perception of the world, all my feelings about it, all my judgments, my ego, all of that come into being through thoughting. Now, when I'm making the circle and the sparkler, and I stop the sparkler, well, before I even do that, if I slow down the sparkler, I no longer see a circle, I see like little arcs because of the optical illusion. So when we have tanu manasaha, the thinning of the mind, all of a sudden the world starts to change. I quit obsessing about my problems start to diminish and go away. Stop the mind, and you stop the world. It's amazing. This circle in the sparkler that is the mind is also like a prism. When sunlight strikes a prism, it refracts into the rainbow, the spectrum. When consciousness strikes this movement of the mind, it refracts into the triplety, the triple factor, knower, knowing, and knowing. Quite amazing. But all of it is dependent upon the movement of thought. Mind is the awareness of the flow of thought. Mind minus the flow of thought is pure awareness. Any thoughts on this?
What about the unconscious mind?
It's still thoughting. It's just that we're not consciously
Aware
aware of it.
Right.
In its potential form, but it's still there.
Slow. Why isn't it slowing of versus thinning of the mind?
I don't understand the question.
Like your thoughts, if you meditate enough, can you slow down
Absolutely.
your thoughts?
First thing that meditation does, it begins to make the unconscious conscious. You have the unloading of the unconscious. So you don't have so many unconscious syndromes that we're acting out on unconsciously. I'm angry at my mother, and I have trouble with every woman who reminds me of her. And I don't even realize that. I meditate, I realize, oh, look at that. Then all of a sudden I see I've not been relating to any of these women. I've been relating to my mother. But yes, see if I can give an example of the thinning of the mind. So back at your old job, there are people who may not have been yogis, and when the information came down that they were going to be laid off, or even before that, when they had the fear that they might be laid off, their minds probably were very active. So there was a lot of stress, a lot of suffering, a lot of future tripping. Oh, if only, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Am I wrong? Whereas a yogi, she may know it's all unfolding perfectly. It's just product. gonna be fine.
So it's a recognition of that, going to be fine.
That thins the mind, slows the mind down. The frequency and charge of the thought is less. And you begin to see what really is here, like God's going to take care of you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And is part of that when we're observing the mind, observing what's going on as opposed to being completely in it?
The way to heal the mind is to get out of the mind, Swamiji used to say.
You actually don't have to try too much. It just happens.
Exactly. Exactly.
I recently stumbled upon this Wikipedia page called the Troxler effect. Some scientist in the 1940s, created these visual experiments where it's like a grid of things and there's only one thing that's moving at a time, and then you keep staring at that image and movement, and because the brain tends to filter out things that don't move, like the image completely changes from what it actually is when your eyes are actually moving and perceiving it for the first time versus when it's really still. Like it's a visual experiential thing of how the brain kind of removes information that's unmoving and unchanging. It's actually really cool.
Wow.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Very cool. But the whole point that he's getting at here, the world is the mind is the world. What is the mind? The mind is nothing more than the flow, the movement of thought. Next verse.
विबोधैकानुसन्धानात् चिदंशात्मतया मनः चिदेकताम् उपायाति दृढाभ्यासवशादिह. The mind, because of its being of the nature of a part of consciousness or pure intelligence, attains to the state of the one undivided consciousness by inquiry into or reflection on pure intelligence or perception, and by the power of firm practice.
Yes. So when we had our spiritual algebra, mind equals the awareness of thought flow. You move the thought flow to the other side of the equation. Mind minus thought flow is pure awareness, which is your essential nature. The context for your thought is pure awareness. If you have ahankriti, thoughts that create a fake sense of I, ahankara, ahankriti, the kara, kriti part means to make or to do. So they're I maker thoughts. If we undo the I maker thoughts, what's left is the real nature. How do we do that? Turn the light around. This radical reversal of the attentive faculty. Go looking for the person you think you are. See what you find. Keeping in mind, if it's a thought, if it's a vritti, if it's knowable, cannot be you. I think it was in the Gita class, we had this term chit chaya. Was it Monday that we talked about it? I can't remember now. But chit chaya is one of the scripture's terms for this fake self. Chaya means a shadow. So if you shine the light of awareness on this shadow self, what happens when you shine a light on a shadow? It disappears. It's exactly what happens to the ego sense. So you turn the light of attention around in a mind made as quiet as you can. So listen to the traffic outside for a moment. Who hears it? What hears it? You see, there's no person there. The sound going through the space of consciousness. And this is a practice, abhyasa. We need to do it over and over and over again till we're convinced the personal sense of self is fake, it's unreal. Something produced by the mind. It's not a real entity. You are the one real entity. Any thoughts? Next one.
Ata paurushamashritya chittam akramya chetasa vishokam padamalambya niratanka sthiro bhava mana eva samartham hi manaso dhrida nigrahe. Therefore, resorting to human effort, taking possession of the thinking mind by consciousness, and by laying hold of the place devoid of sorrow, be steady, free from anguish. Because in the firm restraint of the mind, only the mind is capable.
So, what we need to do is attain chitta shuddhi, purity of mind. With a bit of discipline, purushartha. In the beginning, it is useful to have a point of attention. Really doesn't matter what it is. It's not magic. It can be a mantra. Om Namah Shivaya. What am I going to have for dinner? Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. I remember to make that email. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Or you can watch your breath. Or you can scan the body. After a while, you can just be in the silence. As thoughts and feelings arise, just gently, but firmly set them aside. Endeavoring to drown the mind. This is jnana abhyasa, the practice of wisdom. Remember our general rule of thumb. You want to have your carpet bag of tricks as a meditator. The same practice is not useful for every yogi, and the same practice is not useful for us, one yogi, all the time. This is the basic rule of thumb. The grosser the mind, the more meditative supports. The subtler your mind, drop the supports away. Any thoughts on this? Until you can begin to see space between the thoughts, then endeavor to see who knows the thoughts and the space between. Next verse.
भोगौघ वासनां त्यक्त्वा निर्विकल्प सुखी भव एष एव मनोनाश त्वविद्यानाश उच्यते. Abandoning the mental impressions of the multitude of enjoyments, be happy without the distinction of the knower and the known. This only is the destruction of the mind, which is verily called the destruction of ignorance.
Yes. So we have a term here, manonasha. It is to be contrasted with manolaya. What's the difference? Manolaya means the absorption of the mind or the dissolution of the mind into the unmanifest. It means when the mind moves towards unconsciousness. Now listen very carefully. There are people who get stuck in Laya for decades, meditating every day for 45 minutes. They get in their lazy boy chair, turn on a little new age music or maybe some Mozart. Smoke a doobie. They call it meditation. Now, it's very relaxing. Thank God you have moments of real relaxation, especially if you're a person who's been terribly stressed all your life. Who here's taken a regular yoga class and yoga asana class where they do the shavasana at the end of the class? So they have you lie down on the ground in corpse pose, and they may talk to you. People get very relaxed. In most classes, somebody starts to snore. Isn't that what happens?
Yeah.
Why? Oh, they go to sleep. They're going into Laya. But you can get very close to sleep without actually being there. If you're sitting up straight, indications that your mind is headed towards Laya is your posture will collapse. Your head will bob. It's relaxing, but it's not manonasha, the destruction of the mind, the annihilation of the mind. This is not some enfeeblement. It's not like getting a frontal lobotomy. It doesn't even mean the cessation of perception necessarily. Now, in nirvikalpa samadhi, it's like deep sleep. There's no individual, there's no phenomenal world. But unlike deep sleep, you're fully conscious. But manonasha means simply this: the destruction of the personal sense of self. The destruction of this deeply rooted belief that happiness is out there. The destruction of the idea that I must struggle in order to be happy. Only three ideas. They are the mind. That's problematic. And if they are removed, it's permanent. How? When vasana has been exhausted. When I thoroughly gone through the mind to give up attachment and identification. It's not as hard as you think. Essentially, the whole psyche is held together by about half a dozen thoughts. You'll figure it out for yourself. The last vasana is roasted, the last identification, the last attachment. Those three ideas go away. They are Gate param gate parasam gate bodhi suva. Gone, gone, completely gone beyond, fully awake. That doesn't mean that the senses are enfeebled. In fact, they're more intense. Doesn't mean that intellect cannot think. I'm reading Wandering in the Himalayas, a spiritual biography or autobiography of Swami Tapovanam. And in the forward material by Chinmaya, he's walking through the Himalayas. And he talks about how Tapovanam would just stop, be looking at a bird or an insect, and just totally lost in the incredible beauty and wonder of nature. Total bliss. So, does everyone understand these two states, Manolaya, Manonasha? If you are troubled by falling asleep in meditation, a very good remedy for that is to meditate with your eyes open. You can do this by simply facing a wall or just fixing your gaze on some spot on the floor or the wall. Then you'll notice my mind moving towards life. Bring it back. Any questions? Thoughts? Next verse.
इच्छा मात्रम् अविध्येयम् तन्नाशो मोक्ष उच्यते स च संकल्प मात्रेण सिद्धो भवति नान्यथा. This spiritual ignorance is only the desire of the mind. Its destruction is called liberation. That indeed is accompanied only by the absence of thought or imagination and not otherwise.
Yes. So, what is the nature of my ignorance? Karma, craving. What is the root of that craving? This deeply rooted conviction. I'm spiritually impoverished. There's not enough. There's not enough of the world. There's not enough of me. I need to fix it. I'm a moron. I just need more, whatever it is. That's the problem. What's the antidote? Let go. Soften. Open our hearts. Accept. Surrender. Drop the rock. Give up the burden. Shakespeare has such incredible language. We grunt and sweat under a weary life. Isn't that vivid? The old African American spiritual, tired of living and scared of dying. No, it's from Old Man River is from what's the Broadway musical?
Porgy and Bess?
No, it's earlier than that. Oh. Going on.
Naham brahmeti sankalpat sudridat badhyate manah sarvam brahmeti sanklapat sudrid muchyati manah. By the firm mental resolve, quote, I am not Brahman, the Supreme Spirit, quote, the mind is bound. By the firm mental resolve, all is Brahman, the Supreme Spirit, the mind is liberated.
Yes, so you've heard me say so many times. What is my bondage? It is the firm resolve. I usually put it in the language, the deeply rooted conviction. I'm bound. Meaning I think I'm my body. What is liberation? The deeply rooted conviction, the firm resolve. Not that I'm a knower of Brahman, but I am Brahman. Through direct experience. What do I mean by that? Over and over and over again. In the mind, in the space between your thoughts, turn the lamp of the mind inward. Notice the knower. See if you change. See whether or not you are always the space of pure awareness, Chidakash, as the scripture has used. Till you're convinced. So it's not just a vain repetition. I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. It does not. All right, next one.
Krishoti dukhi baddhoham hastapadaadimanaham iti bhavanurupena vyavaharena badhyate. I am weak, extremely distressed and bound. I am the possessor of hands, feet, and other organs. One is bound by action in conformity with ideas such as these.
Yes, I'm a person, I have qualities, I'm weak, I'm stupid. Or the others, I'm good looking and I'm smart. Still the same stuff. I was watching a YouTube interview with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's, I think, a couple years younger than I. I think he's 73. 76, so he's 3 years young. And they were showing pictures of him when he was competition bodybuilder. Man, what a physique. And then they had one of him recently with his shirt off with his pot belly and flabby arms. Yeah, I guess he's in pretty good shape for 73, but he's 73. He's talking about how disgusting his body is compared to what it was. It's all so impermanent. So impermanent. But all these ideas about the body or the body's narrative, its story, those are the ideas that bind us. No personal thought of self is real. Now, the psychotherapists will frequently try to move your ego from low self-esteem to high self-esteem. You may show up in therapy, I think I'm terrible, I'm worthless, I'm unlovable, I'm ugly, I'm stupid. And the therapist convinces you, you're not terrible, you're a good person, you're kind, and you're lovable by somebody, hopefully. I'm a baby. Every baby loves their mother, even if she's ugly. Haven't solved the problem. Get out. Get out. Next verse.
Naham dukkhi me deho dehandanya parosmaham iti nishchaya vananta Krishna vidyo vimuchyate. I am not distressed. I have no limitation of the body. I am the supreme spirit different from the body. One who has this firm conviction within and whose spiritual ignorance has been destroyed is liberated.
Yes. So with the destruction of spiritual ignorance, how? By the direct apprehension of my essential nature. Aparoksha jnanam. I have no problems. I am birthless, changeless, and deathless. I can't be improved. I can't be diminished. I'm perfectly safe. Nothing touches me. I'm not the body. I'm not the mind's stupid reactions to the phenomenal world. So mechanical. Situation is conducive. Situation is non-conducive. all it ever does. Turn the volume level down. It's unimportant. I know where happiness is. The mind freed from longing. Give it up. Let it go. Be at peace. So simple in the end. Next verse.
Aho no chitram yat satyam brahma tat vismritam nrinam yat asatyam avidyakyam tat naunam smriti magatam. Alas, it is indeed surprising that which is the truth or Brahman, the Supreme Spirit, that has been forgotten by men. That which is untruth, called spiritual ignorance, has certainly come to memory.
Now, this is, I think, one of the most amazing things. Actually, ignorance never really covers the self. Just like the clouds don't really cover the sun. The sun's 93 million miles away. You can get a bit about this clouds, teeny tiny little Earth. And to prove it, you can go to the most miserable of creatures, and they do not doubt that they are. They do not doubt that they know. But the mind is covered by ignorance. On Wednesday mornings, we're going through I Am That again, the Nisargadatta Maharaj book. And there's this one particular disciple, and he's obviously very well read. And he talks about having had an experience where he experienced such freedom, such one with everything. And it was so blissful and so ecstatic. And he's there with Maharaj, and he wants to get back there. That must have been what's real. That's realization. That's liberation. What he was unable to see is, who is it who's there witnessing the conversation with Maharaj? He had confused moksha with a mind state. I'm saying static mind states aren't fun. But the freedom comes when you realize, when are you ever not you? Did losing your job at Meta make you disappear? You sure? Did losing the restaurant make you disappear?
No.
No, of course not. Nothing makes you disappear. And with all the catastrophes that we've all been through, did you disappear for a moment? What's the most obvious, evident, present reality? You are. And yet, such is the power of Maya in the mind. I superimpose on that the qualities of the bodies, the equipment. When that's even contrary to my direct experience. Take a deep breath. Do you not know the breath in the body? How can you be the body? You know the body. That's your direct experience. Such is the power of Maya. I'm getting fat. Oh, my hair is getting thin. Gray hair. That's so silly. Next verse.
Sriramavacha Lavana Sao Mahabhaga Praptavan Katamapadam. Sri Rama said, how did this Lavana, a very blessed person, meet with this misfortune?
So remember, okay, let's see, story of Lavana. Refresh my memory. Was he the king?
He's the king.
Yeah. So he's the king. He's there in his palace, and the magician comes, waves the peacock feathers. So how did Lavana have this particular experience going on?
Vasishtha Vacha Ekakante Chopavishten Lavanen Vichintitam Pitam Aho Harishchandro Rajasuyasya Yajakah Aham Tasya Kule Jata Tam Yaje Manasa Makham. Vasishtha said, it was thought by Lavana, who was seated in solitude, thus: my grandfather Harishchandra was the performer of the sacrifice or Vedic ritual of Rajasuya. I am born in his family. I shall perform that sacrificial rite with my mind. Note, Rajasuya is a great sacrificial rite performed by a universal monarch, such as a mark of his undisputed sovereignty.
So the literary device is he didn't perform the sacrifice at the level of the body. He only did it in his mind. Let's fast forward. So you said something unkind to someone or done something that's hurtful, and it weighs upon you. All right. I'm going to make an amend. I'm going to say I'm sorry. So I imagine this person in front of me and I go, I'm sorry for what I did. Whew. Ah. Does that do it?
No.
That's kind of what he did. Are you getting the point? Let's see what happens.
Iti sanchitya manasa tiksham cha praviveshasa ahuya hrithvijo devan prajvalyatha cha pakakam hutva cha dvijapurvebhyo datva sarvasvadakshinam vyabudhyata dinsyayante swa evo pavanam nirpaha. Thus, having reflected in his mind, he commenced the sacrificial vows, invoking Brahmanas as sacrificial priests, lighting the sacrificial fire, pouring oblations into it, and giving as gifts all his possessions to Brahmanas and others. The king woke up at the end of the day, that is before sunrise, in his own garden.
So the Rajasurya is a sacrifice where the king gives away his wealth. So he didn't really give away his wealth, doesn't give it his mind. Just like if you're going to make an apology or an amend to someone, instead of going to them in the physical world, you just do it in your mind. So let's see what happens.
राजसूर्यस्य कर्तार दुःखं यत् प्राप्नुवन्ति हि तस्य दुःखस्य भोगाय चक्रेण गगनात् तदा प्रहितो देवदूतो हि राम शाम्भरिकाकृतिः मना कर्तृफलं भुङ्क्ते तदेव न शरीरकम्. Rama, to make the king experience that pain which the performers of the Rajasuya sacrifice incur, a messenger of the gods was sent by Shakra or Indra, the king of the minor gods, in the form of the juggler. That mind only, which is the performer, experiences the fruit and not the body.
Yes. So, because if he had given away all his possessions at the physical level, he would have been a wandering mendicant or living, like Pope Benedict did in a little hut at the back of the Vatican. But because he did it mentally, he then had a mental experience of going and living as a tribal man for 60 years. So he had the mental consequence of it. Yet it seems so real. Going on.
Section 3. Ajnana Bhumika, degrees of spiritual ignorance.
Oh, these next two sections are probably the most famous in all of Yoga's Vasishtha. We have the 7 stages of ignorance, which will then be followed by the 7 stages of knowledge. So let's see if we can parse them.
Swarupavasthiti mukti tadbhramsho hatva vedanam etat sankshepata proktam yat gyatva lakshanam. Abiding in one's own essential nature is liberation. Falling off from that is the cognition of the sense of I. That which is the characteristic of knowing and not knowing has thus been briefly stated.
Yes, so knowing I am Brahman is liberation. Thinking I am a person is bondage. Now, how do we get there? Going on.
Ajnana bhumaya sapta cha jnana bhumayah bija jagrat tatha jagrat mahajagrat tathaiva cha jagrat swapna tatha swapna swapna jagrat sushuptakam iti swapta vidho moha shrinutasya cha lakshanam. The degrees of spiritual ignorance are 7, and 7 are the steps of knowledge. The seed waking state, the waking state, the great waking state, dream in waking state, dream state, waking state in dream and deep sleep. Thus, delusion is 7-fold.
Okay, let's
Please
parse
hear
it.
its characteristics.
So before we go on, let's take that list and I'll see if I can explain them to you. So the first one is the seed.
The seed waking state.
This is in the morning when I wake up. All that exists is the I thought. That's the seed waking state. All that I have is that pure Jiva Bhavana before the world starts to encroach. The next one?
The waking state.
Yes. So that's was, you're in bed, your eyes are open, and after a while, what happens? Let's see, I have an appointment with a dermatologist today, and then, oh, what am I going to make for dinner this evening? And oh golly, I think I need to move some money from this account to that account. You know, doesn't that happen to you? Then you get out of bed and you go make some tea or some coffee. And you sit down and you scroll through the headlines. Does this sound like your life? Maybe somewhere along the line you'll meditate. Your waking state. What's the next?
The great waking state.
That's what I just started. You wake up, and then the great waking state is our life in the waking state. So that's the third one, right?
And the next one is dream in waking state.
So this is when I am not paying attention to what's going on in the waking state, and my mind leads it and starts to think about other stuff. Now, I know this would never happen in one of my classes. That you quit listening to Jim say the same damn stuff over and over again. And you start thinking about, gee, I should probably do this, or I should probably do that. Do you know that experience?
Of course not.
Oh, that's dream and waking state. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Next one.
Dream state.
Dream state. That's what we have. And when at night, awareness of the waker is gone and you're in the dream state. Next one.
Waking state in dream.
So this is, okay, missed it. So dream state is when I'm completely lost in fantasy. You may be lying on the couch and you're awake. Let's see if I can give a good example. Any of you ever had conversations with people who aren't in the room?
Mhm.
When you're really, you're a little resentful or hurt or angry, or you've got a meeting the next day, you create a whole conversation.
Mhm.
You done that before? Completely lose awareness and you're all in that fantasy that you've done. Then comes the great dream.
Waking state in dream.
Waking state and dream. That's the full dream where it appears just like my waking state reality. You cannot distinguish it. To the dreamer, the dream world seems just as real as this does now. And then the last one,
Deep sleep.
that's full ignorance, when I must have been sound asleep. I can't remember a thing. Deep sleep. So those are the 7 stages of how the mind becomes more and more covered by ignorance. Isn't that a fascinating ladder of descent? All right, next one.
Anakyam chetanam yatsya tasya hi nunana bhavishya chittati jivat inama shabdartha bhajanam. That which is sentient or conscious is without denomination. Its state is indeed new, that is, it has no past. It shares such names and word meanings as the future, the mind, and the individual soul.
Read it again. I'm not sure I understood it.
That which is sentient or conscious is without denomination. Its state is indeed new, that is, it has no past. It shares such names and word meanings as the future, the mind, and the individual soul.
Okay, we'll just take it for what it is right now. I'm not sure if is he going back and re-articulating those 7 stages. I'm not sure. Going on.
बीजरूपं स्थितं जाग्रत् बीजजाग्रत् तत् उच्यते पराच्चातस्य जीवस्य त्वयं चाहम् इदं मम इति यः प्रत्यय स्वच्छ तज्जाग्रत् प्रागभावनात्. The waking state, which is in seed form, that is where cognition is incipient.
Okay, yeah. So what he just described was that very first thought, I. Now he's going to the second stage of ignorance, being starting now, that ones you just did.
The waking state, which is in seed form, that is where cognition is incipient, is called the seed waking state.
Yes.
That clear cognition of the individual soul, which is born of the Supreme Spirit, that is, this is me and this is mine, is the waking state because of the absence of prior perception.
Yes. So this is as the ego comes into existence, and then the I-ness and minus and the phenomenal world gets more and more solid. Going on.
Ayam soham idam tatme iti janmantaroditah pivara pratyaya prokto mahajagrat iti sphutam. This is he, I am this, that is mine. Such immense conviction arising from former births is distinctly called the great waking state.
So this is my little zoo that I run around with. And the cause of it is the force of the past. Who I have in my life, what I end up doing in my life, the various experiences that I interpret as good and bad, pleasurable or sorrowful. That's the great waking state. For most of us, it's a sine wave. My little 6 pounds of joy, my 8 pounds of misery, my 2 pounds of joy, my 1 pound of misery. It just keeps going on and on. The great waking state. Going on.
Arudham athava rudham sarvatha tanmayatmakam yat jagrato manorajyam jagrat swapna sa uchyate. Whether grown up from it or not, which is made up of that fancy of the mind or castle in the air of the waking state is called dream in waking state.
Yes. So we talked about this. Your mind leaves perception of this world to some degree, you start to have a fantasy. Going on.
Dvichandra shuktikarupya mriga trishnadi bhedatah abhyasat prapya jagratvam swapno neka vidho bhavet. Two moons, silver in a pearl oyster, and the mirage. A dream as such as these, having overtaken the state of waking by practice, becomes manifold.
Yes. So I do not see what's there and I imagine things. That's when I start to get the world of fantasy. And to bump it up into the 21st century, we're living in an environment of siloed information. And someone may say to you, you don't know what's really going on. You're in an information bubble. And you may look at things as, no, I know what's going on. You're in an information bubble. Any of you had conversations like that?
Is that like talking about information that's incorrect and where you're getting your information from?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But we're in our current political environment. People are convinced I know what's real. You don't. Fantasy. Going on.
Alpakalam maya drishtam etanno veti yatra hi paramarsha prabuddhasya saswapna iti kathyate. This was seen by me for a short time, or was it not? Where such a recollection happens to the awakened, that is called a dream.
Yes. So when I don't know what's really happened did I really see that happen, or was it an illusion? The idea of getting deeper into fantasy. And I always like to think of it as conversations with people who aren't in the room. We're remembering an interaction. How could they have said that to me? Sure, none of you ever had those kinds of thoughts. There's a French expression called esprit d'escalier. You speak French?
A little bit, I know, but the spirit of
The staircase.
the staircase. Oh,
So the image is this: you're there on the ground floor of the house, and you have a fight with your lover, and you toss him out, and then you walk up the stairs, and as you're walking up the stairs, you think of all the cutting remarks you could have said that you didn't think of at the time. Isn't that a marvelous
that is
expression?
great. Yeah, it's a wonderful metaphor. Yeah.
Going.
Chira sandarshana bhavat avispashta briha vapuhu चिरकालानुवृत्तश्च स्वप्नो जाग्रत् दिवोदितः स्वप्न जाग्रत् इति प्रोक्तो जाग्रत्यपि परिस्फुरन्. By the absence of appearance for a long time, whose extensive nature is not intelligible, but which is continued for a long time, that is, whose memory lingers for a long time, flashing on the mind even in the waking state, such a dream which has risen like the waking state is called the waking state in dream.
So that's what I have at night. You wake up in the morning, oh my God, I dreamt that I was tied up and enjoyed it. My gosh, did I dream that or did it really happen? Going on.
षडवस्था परित्यागे जड़ा जीवस्य स या स्थितिः भविष्य दुःखबोधाढ्या सौषुप्ति सोच्यते गतिः. On discarding the above 6 states, that dull or senseless state of the individual soul or consciousness is called the condition of deep sleep, which abounds in the perception of the pain of the future. That is, one waking up from this state perceives the pain of the future.
Yes. So all the vasanas are there in deep sleep. So the potentiality of future misery is there in an unmanifest form. Is that the end of that section?
One more. Jagat tasyam avasthayam andhe tamasi liyate saptavastha iti prokta maya jnanasya raghava ekaika shata shakhatra nana vibhava rupini. In that state of deep sleep, the world is dissolved in utter darkness. Raghava, the 7 states of spiritual ignorance have thus been told by me. Each one of them is 100 branched in this respect, appearing like various powers.
So it's not just 7. You can divide it up into more and more layers of illusion and delusion, non-apprehension, misapprehension. This is just a brief 7 stages, but they're very interesting the way he's laying them out. All right, perfect place to stop. And then next week we'll get into the Saptagyana Bhumikas, very famous 7 stages of Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Guru Pyo Namaha.